Okay, so in part one of this conversation, we looked at some universal truths that we're going to build on for the rest of this conversation. So if you missed that, jump back in and get those. And in this conversation, what I want to do is begin to unpack a little bit of a word picture, which again is going to help us hang stuff on throughout all the rest of our installments. I mentioned in the first one that the universal truth of intention being inadequate. It's not enough just to intend to do something, you have to do something about it. And I referred to a marathon that I limped through one time. And because my intention was to get to the end and to raise money for this charity, what I did was I went out and bought a watch that tracked my runs, and I got a training schedule, and I made sure I had rest days and carb days and fully loaded days, and I made sure that I subscribed to a running magazine for a little bit. I got some new trainers. I changed my schedule so that I could go out on training runs and longer runs at the weekends. You have to do stuff if you want to achieve what you hope to do. It's the same with a whole bunch of stuff. If you have a large DIY project at home, then there are things you have to do in preparation for that project that will make it successful. If you just think it, you can't have a new decorated room. If you buy the paint or the wallpaper and invest in the paint stripper and get some new tools, then there's a chance. If you're going to drive through Europe, you have to do some stuff with your intention. You have to put those things on your headlights. You have to download a map of French roads, whatever it is. Ever since the start of them being wise, spiritual writers have talked about rhythms, habits, disciplines, rules that they say are tools to help you achieve your intention. Now I know what you're thinking before you log off and think, my goodness me, we're going to move on to a farm and we're going to end up knitting our own clothes out of stinging nettles and singing Kumbaya at midnight around a campfire. That's not what spiritual disciplines are. That's not what the spiritual life is. There are these ways, these rhythms, these rules, these help tools to help us get to where we want to. And remember, where we want to get to is a life of peace and hope and joy and reconciliation with ourselves and our God, and an ability to be at home with who we are and how we've been made to be, and a kind of sense of neighborliness that is not destroyed when the neighbor gets the better iPhone than us or whatever. There's a guy called Dallas Willard, and he says this. He said, the disciplines are activities of mind and body purposefully undertaken to bring our personality and total being into effective cooperation with the divine order. They enable us more and more to live in a power that is, strictly speaking, beyond us, deriving from the spiritual realm itself. I love that quote. There's so much packed in there that speaks of the spiritual and the physical, of the way that the practical things that we have to do and to become aware of, as well as this kind of spiritual realm. And remember, it's the spiritual realm that is maybe a goal. We want to achieve peace. We want to achieve joyfulness and contentment. So these, whatever words we might hang on them, these disciplines, these habits, these ways of being. One of the other words that people have used is a rule. It comes from apparently the Latin word regular, which we would use as the word ruler. It literally means straight piece of wood. And you can see how we've got that word. The other way that the Romans would use it is this, where it's not just a straight piece of wood, but something like this, a trellis. And here is a structure, here is a discipline, here is a habit, here is a regular, here is a ruler, here is a straight piece of wood that allows life to grow on it, that allows fruit in an abundance to grow on it, which allows a beautiful rose to grow up it. This structure is what enables the life and the fruit to grow. If this structure doesn't exist, then the vine becomes too heavy and you never get it filled with grapes. If that structure doesn't exist, the rose has got nothing to wind its way up. This structure is never the goal. Nobody intends for the trellis to take center stage, but the trellis is the thing that facilitates life. And so we've got our three foundational principles of intention being inadequate, and positivity always being corroded by frustration, and the waking up being difficult but good and valuable. And onto that, this week we're hanging this structure. And our question is, what are some structures that we might be able to build? What are some trellises that we might be able to put into our lives that would help life and joy and peace and grace and fruitfulness grow?